Another one bites the dust. Yeah, that's right. Elizabeth Warren out, according to news reports. The breaking news as I came on the air here is Elizabeth Warren is going to step aside. Be very interesting to see if I haven't seen yet if this is going to be the case, if she endorses Bernie, or does she try to just get one last little seat on the Biden Express? It's tough to know. Tough to make that call at this point, gotta tell you. I would not be all that surprised if we had Elizabeth Warren say, well, I love Bernie, and I was trying to ride the Marxist coattails all the way into the White House, but now I just think it'd be better to, go with a winner. So I think it'll be tough to see how she does this one. These politicians, it's for people who spend so much time talking about service to others and how much they want to help other people. These politicians certainly make quite a lot of decisions that are really just about themselves, as anybody who's paying attention and being honest can attest. So Elizabeth Warren at this point is looking like she's out. I mean, she kind of has to be out. I don't even know what the delegate count is, but all you have to know about how her Super Tuesday went is she is from Massachusetts, which is a state that has so many great things. Boston's a great town. I went to college in Massachusetts. There's so much to love about Massachusetts. Even when it's freezing and it's wintertime, I love it up there. Man, the politics up there just stink. It's just bad. And she came in not second place. She came in third place in her home state. Producer Mark just gave me the thumbs up. So if you see me give a weird wink on the Pluto stream, that's because I said thank you, Mark. And this is now Elizabeth Warren coming in third place in her home state in Massachusetts. Third place. Yep. That's not going to work. That is not going to work. And now we get to have one of these days where we say, what was it exactly about this person that made the media so willing to just overlook the glaring deficiencies in her abilities as a politician, where it really was just the media loves her. They think she's awesome. They're big fans of hers. We had the whole selfie lines phenomenon. And then there was also the issue of her being a fake Cherokee. And I've got to say, this is something that's just, that they've tried to normalize it now and say that it wasn't really a big deal. I mean, here's Elizabeth Warren addressing, former presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren, addressing why she went around telling everybody that she was a Cherokee, a Native American, for not just a little while, for decades, into her late 60s, or is she 70 now? Into her 70s. Play it.
I am not a tribal citizen. I had a good conversation last week with Chief Baker, who is chief of the Cherokee tribes, and I told Chief Baker that I am sorry that I extended confusion about tribal citizenship and tribal sovereignty and for harm caused. I am also sorry for not being more mindful of this decades ago. Tribes and only tribes determine tribal citizenship.
Yeah, it's not just about tribal citizenship. It never was. It's very clear to anybody who has dealt with the college and university system in this country for the last 30 years or so, that there are ways to game the system. You can game the system as an applicant, as we've just seen with these people. I think someone just got in the college admissions scandal with it that took in Aunt Becky from Full House and a couple of other people. Felicity Huffman. I don't think I've ever seen her acting in anything, but I know she was in the Desperate Housewives show. They got in trouble, felony charges for buying their way into schools. The better way to do it is to just find some way to use diversity as a fake diversity if you can I'm saying if you're trying to scam the system, use fake diversity as a backdoor. Somebody who did this, ran this experiment, was Mindy Kaling's brother. I actually had him on radio, and I think I don't know if he goes by JoJo, but he went by JoJo in his college application. He ran this experiment that showed exactly what many of us would expect, which is that the university privileges not just non-white minorities in general, but some non-white minorities over others in the application process. But they tell you there are no quotas. This guy, Kaling, again, his name, JoJo is not his name. I think that's what he applied under. I forget what his first name is now. Look, it was like 4 or 5 years ago we did this. But he applied to med school as an Indian, not. I mean, actually, somebody from South Asia, right? A properly named Indian, and he applied as an Indian, and he didn't get in anywhere. And then he applied. He shaved his head, and prominently displayed that he was like a member of the. And he is a darker skinned South Asian guy, and he prominently displayed that he was a member of like the Black Student Union or the African American Student Caucus or whatever it was, very involved in black issues in college, and tried to present intentionally as an African American. He's like, I'm going to apply he applied to med school as a black guy, falsely. But didn't really. The thing about this is that he didn't lie. He didn't say, I mean, at least if I remember this correctly, he didn't say, I am African American. He included a photo, changed his name, which was a name that was a nickname based on his actual name. And guess what? He got into like one of the best medical schools in the country after getting rejected everywhere. Now, this is the reality of the education system as it is now. I have friends who've worked in admissions committees. This is just the truth. This is why there's that group of Asian American students who are suing Harvard University, and Harvard's just living in a lie about this. Harvard's like, oh no, Harvard's answer on that was that Asian students kept somehow getting really low scores for like leadership and personality in the application process. And that's why other minorities, blacks and Latinos, who applied somehow with lesser grades and lesser SATs, kept getting in ahead of these Asian students. Forget about white students, of these Asian students. We all know this is a system. If you are, in fact, Native American, a truly Native American ancestry, that is one of the most desirable minority categorizations possible for students and for teachers in our university system. We all know this is the case, all right? And this is, we talk so much about diversity, but we can't really talk about diversity. We're told that diversity is a fantastic thing. What kind of diversity? Don't ask questions. How much diversity? Don't ask questions. Does diversity mean that people who are less qualified than other people get the same job? Don't ask questions. This is the way that we're supposed to exist with this all the time. As I've said, when what you're doing is right and moral, it's easy to talk about, isn't it? When you completely and utterly believe in what it is you're doing and the rightness of it, you don't have to use halfway phrases and shut down discussion, end any talk about an issue. When what you're doing clearly has trade-offs you don't want to admit or has consequences or side effects that you don't want to talk about, that's when you do all these other things. And there's just no justification that the left wants to offer up publicly and honestly for why is it, okay, African Americans, legacy of slavery, affirmative action, there's a consistent thread there in the argument. You can disagree whether that's legal or should be legal or not now to advantage people, but why are Latino students why are Latino students more desirable to an admissions committee than a student who's a first-generation immigrant from Korea? Why is that the case? Well, they'd say it's a representation issue. So then that's a quota. Then you have quotas because you have too many Koreans and Chinese at Harvard and not enough Mexicans and whomever, Dominicans, whatever. All right? Well, that's a quota system then. If it's just about the numbers, oh no. Well, what is the answer? Oh no, we take a holistic approach. BS. And that's why this lawsuit against Harvard is just going to expose the whole system as a scam. They're just doing stealth quotas. And I'm talking about wrong Supreme Court decisions. This was another one where you had Sandra Day O'Connor I think it was Grutter v. Bollinger on this one, say, maybe in 20 years we won't need this anymore. So then we won't need this anymore? We're now having these like temporary legal authorizations for things that clearly violate the Equal Protection Clause, but we really want it right now. We think it's a good thing, so we're going to just do that? That's the way we go? And she said that in the decision that upheld it, 5-4. California got rid of race-based admissions preferences. The school system there, the university system hasn't collapsed. There's still lots of people from lots of different backgrounds going to different schools. What you end up seeing, if you really want to know, I know this is a little bit of a departure from Elizabeth Warren, but I think this stuff's important. And this is all about why did she do the scam? And it was a scam. They're going to tell us it wasn't a scam. It was. Elizabeth Warren's a scamster. That was the whole Native American thing. That's why she plagiarized a recipe and put it in Pow Wow Chow. Because she was working the system in a way that was really gross. In a way that was really unethical, actually. So, and now pretends like, I just was, my daddy and my mommy always told me that I was a Cherokee, and so I believed them, and just happened to discover this as an adult trying to get prestigious university jobs. We're all supposed to think there's nothing really going on there. I know. I diverted from my diversion. I even kind of lost my train of thought on the affirmative action issue. But what they don't like to focus on. When I say they, the left, they don't like to focus on what happened in California when they got rid of, for state universities in California, race-based admissions preferences. Some minorities, specifically Black and Latino college students in that system, their numbers went down a little bit at the very most elite universities. But overall, their graduation rates and GPA within that California university system went up a little bit. The indication here is that there are students who really academically are prepared, and I'm not trying to knock on like UC Davis, but they're prepared for like UC Davis or UC Santa Barbara, and pushing them into UCLA, which is by SAT scores considered a more elite institution. Just saying, you're not doing them any favors unless you're just giving them a credential that is not based on academic merit, because you think that then will be better off for that group going forward in society. But now you're adjusting the system to fit your social engineering preferences. So California, believe it or not, got rid of, and I mean it's really in large part because of the huge influx of Latino students and also the huge influx of Asian students. So in the state system in California, there was enough of an impetus to say, okay, we're not going to essentially, because the people that were being punished in the system when it was race-based preferences were Asian students. So they already got rid of it there. Elizabeth Warren knows the game, knows the system, and had one of the most bizarre, unforced errors I've ever seen in politics. And I'll never forget the head of CNN PR tried to come after me on Twitter when I was making fun of CNN's coverage. Was like, oh my gosh, we have DNA results that just came in that Elizabeth Warren, wow, proving her critics wrong. She is 1,024th Cherokee. Wow. She really showed them. I mean, wow, a great day for Elizabeth Warren. Everyone who is normal, who doesn't take their orders from Zucker and co. over at CNN, was looking at this like, are you guys crazy? That's like not Native American at all. I mean, it's like, that is actually as Native American as I believe I am, according to my brother. My brother had Ancestry, Ancestry.com or one of those things done. I think I'm 2% African, right? By DNA. So Elizabeth Warren is not Native American at all for no intents and purposes. And then we got to this thing about, she didn't tell people, and she was listed in the Harvard Registry as the first Native American professor at Harvard Law School. That's not an accident, okay? And with the Boston Globe, which is completely in Warren's pocket, did an investigation of this. And as part of the investigation, they met with professors in the hiring committee for Harvard Law School. And sure enough, there was one guy, they said, oh, no, everyone agreed. There was one guy who's like, oh, yeah, no, that was a big factor. He was some old professor who didn't get the memo that you got to lie about this or else. There was one professor that initially was like, oh, no, we definitely looked at her Native American stuff and thought, okay, that's great. We'll get a Native American professor in Harvard Law's faculty. And then he recanted. Oh, gee, I wonder what happened there. I wonder if he just had his memory jogged suddenly, or if somebody jogged it for him, like threatened to jog him off a pier somewhere. So Elizabeth Warren is a fraud. She's out. The media was completely enamored with her candidacy. And now we get to hear a lot more about how, oh, it's because she's a woman that she didn't win.
You know, everywhere we go, we're continuing to draw large numbers of people who are really hungry for the truth, for strong leadership, and a candidate that's raising the issue that I am about the need for a commander-in-chief who will have the courage to bring about a sea change in our foreign policy, end these wasteful regime change wars, new Cold War, nuclear arms race, all of which are not making us any safer, and actually get our priorities straight, redirect our taxpayer dollars towards serving the needs of people in our communities right here at home. That's exactly what I'm doing.
Tulsi Gabbard's still in it, folks. She has not dropped out as I go to air here. She has not decided she's going to stop running for the presidency. Okay. I got to say. I've always, I know some of you give me a hard time about this. I always kind of liked Tulsi. Aloha. I've always thought she was kind of cool. I think she's wrong on most stuff, but you got to love the fact that Hillary Clinton calls her a Russian asset. And I mean, if Hillary hates somebody that much, there's got to be some really good stuff about them. She's the same way that I know that Joe Biden is great on foreign policy because you just have to know what he thinks and do the other thing. Anyone that Hillary Clinton really, really despises in the American political scene is somebody who's got to have some good, got to have some characteristics that are difficult for Hillary to stomach, like decency, integrity, honor. Any of the Hillary's, it's for Hillary, that's kryptonite. Just melts her. Just, hates all of those things. Those icky traits of an honorable person just get in the way. And Tulsi's also somebody who served in the military. It is fascinating to me that we have in this day and age, there was Mayor Pete, who served in Afghanistan, and he got a lot of heat from veterans for starting to overplay the whole, I carried weapons of war. Okay, man, I carried more weapons of war, and I got to be honest with you, in more places. I would never walk around like, I carried weapons of war. There are door kickers, and then there's me in the back trying to help the door kickers find the bad guys, and I never get these things confused. Mayor Pete was, I think, even further in the back than I was. So, anyway, but Tulsi is a veteran, and she does exude a real warmth and love for the military that for the far left of the Democratic Party, let's be honest, it's a problem. They don't like that. The far left of the Democrat Party has always had this thing. The military for them, they politicize the military. They don't really like the military very much, though.
Well, after yesterday's results, the delegate math had become virtually impossible, and a viable path to the nomination just no longer existed. And I will not be our party's nominee. But I will not walk away from the most important political fight of my life, and I hope you won't walk away either. I've always believed that defeating Donald Trump starts with uniting behind the candidate with the best shot to do it. And after yesterday's vote, it is clear that candidate is my friend and a great American, Joe Biden. I've known Joe for a very long time. I know his decency, his honesty, his commitment to the issues that are so important to our country, including gun safety, health care, climate change, and good jobs. And I've had a chance to work with Joe on those issues over the years, especially when he was vice president. He fought for working people his whole life. And I'm glad to say I endorse Joe Biden, and I hope you will join me in working to make him the next president of the United States.
Here's $1,000. Get excited. Each one of you a crisp $1,000 bill. Yay, Bloomberg.
Bruce and Mark, did I mention on the show that he won Aspen, Colorado? I just thought that was awesome. People leave that out. It's only a county in Colorado.
You did not.
He won Aspen.
Of course he did.
Yeah, of course he did. I
Spends
mean,
a lot of time
you
there.
got to have if you're going to have people show up to vote in a place where legitimately houses are starting in the millions of dollars and people, put out their fire in the fireplace with Dom Perignon. I mean, you're going to go for Biden. I'm sorry. You're going to go for Bloomberg. Whoops. They went for Bloomberg. The B's keep getting me confused. There's too many B's. Biden, Bloomberg, Bernie. So he won that, and he won American Samoa. 300 votes cast in American Samoa. 55,000 total people on that island. But I've been digging more and more into Biden. There was actually a reasonably helpful Politico piece, although you have to love Politico in its reporting on the Chuck Schumer gaffe. Went with the whole McConnell pours gasoline on Schumer's comments. It's like, it's just Republicans pounce. They can't help themselves. Republicans pounce. That's always the way these things are. Whenever a Democrat makes a mistake, just look for the journos to say Republicans pounce. What about the mistake that was made? How about that as the focus? It would be like if you lit my house on fire and I came up to you and I was like, hey, why you really shouldn't have lit my house on fire. And then the reporter's like, oh, Buck pounces on member of Team Buck for lighting house on fire. Like, well, yeah. Well, I think the bigger issue is the burning domicile, but nonetheless. Politico is a left-wing site pretending to be something else, but it does do some interesting stuff sometimes. And they had this piece today, 55 things you need to know about Joe Biden. This guy has been, I just want to give you some of this background because he's, and I know, I've taken, producer Mark has said no soup for you to me many times over this already, I promise, or I'm lying. He didn't say that, but he's looked at me and I can tell from his eyes that's what he's thinking. Because, yes, looks like Biden is going to be the nominee. I thought Democrats were more creative than this. They're not. They're going with the oldest, most decrepit, most boring candidate they can possibly find. Bernie's old and decrepit, but he's a Marxist. So at least that's a little bit of spice thrown in the mix. And now we've got Joe Biden looking like he actually might get this whole thing done in Michigan. Michigan's in a week or two. If he has a really good showing in Michigan, which is a place that Bernie actually did well in the last election cycle, that's going to be that's pretty much it at that point, because the rest of the industrial Midwest is going to be very strong Biden territory, and Bernie's not going to be able to catch up. And if Biden goes into the convention with a delegate lead, which it looks like he is, then does anyone really believe that there's going to be some 11th hour effort to make Bernie the nominee? No, not going to happen. You look at all the endorsements are just piling in for Biden. But you look at his background, you look at his story, and there's some interesting stuff. First of all, he's from Scranton, perhaps best known as the town or the fictional office for The Office, the Dunder Mifflin paper company, which I've got to say, I do. The Office is an incredible show. I mean, the writing is so good that I sometimes wish that I could sit down and just, I'm wondering what the writer's process is, because it is the most consistently funny and well-executed comedy that I think I've ever seen. I used to be more of a Parks and Rec guy, but Parks and Rec has some ups and downs, some down episodes. The first season is bad. I think The Office is probably best. Anyway, Scranton, Pennsylvania is where The Office is supposed to be. Dunder Mifflin Paper Company. Michael Scott Paper Company, short-lived, but it was there too. So that's where Biden comes from. And he's got a nice story. He played halfback at a Catholic prep school. He met his wife, first wife, Nelia Hunter, on spring break in the Bahamas. Oh, that sounds like fun. And they married in 1966. Beau Biden was born in 1969. And then Hunter Biden, who we're going to be hearing a lot more about, was born a year later. Biden said in a 1970 interview, quote, "I'm not a keep 'em barefoot and pregnant man, but I'm all for keeping them pregnant until I have a little girl. The only good thing in the world is kids." I like it. I mean, it's a nice sentiment, actually. I got to have some kids. I don't know if producer Mark's going to beat me to the kid finish line here, but got to have some kids one day. One of us at some point on this show will be able to celebrate the birth of some young ones.
I welcome you to beat me. Please go ahead.
You got some more. Well, you're like 25, aren't you?
I'm turning 27 in a month.
Woo!
I'm getting old.
Man, that's like, I think you could actually rent a car and not pay the higher rate now. Look at you.
Yeah, my car insurance will go down because I'm older.
Yeah, he's got We got a graybeard millennial in the making over here. There we go. So Biden was, I just think, this is worthwhile if you want to know about this guy, Joe Biden, because, we see him, he's, corn pop and the blonde hair on my legs, and I yell, and sometimes I get a little southern for no reason. I say y'all when I want to seem folksy, even though I'm from Delaware. I think we should know more of the backstory of this guy. He was drafted after finishing law school, but he got he was, what is it? Is it 4F? I don't know what the designation is when you're drafted and you are essentially told you can't for health reasons. But he had asthma. So he didn't end up going to Vietnam because of his asthma. Now, okay. I guess that's a legit reason. I just would note the media has savaged Trump for bone spurs for not going to Vietnam. I always thought bone spurs were operable, by the way. Am I mistaken with that? I don't know, but I'm just going to know. And by the way, Bill Clinton being a draft dodger, which is a whole other thing, that was fine with the media. They're fine with that. So I'm just trying to I want to keep us as consistent as we can be here. They've called Trump a coward because of his bone spurs. Does Biden still have asthma? Did he always have asthma? Do we just, I'm just asking questions, right? As everyone says when they're poking around and don't want to get in trouble. I'm just asking questions. Let's see here. If he's elected in this, he's now 77 years old. If he wins this election, he will be the oldest president ever inaugurated. He has been a United States senator since he ran when he was 29 years old. So he wanted to do this right away. Now, he did lose, and I mentioned this before, he lost his wife and young child, and his two boys, Beau and Biden, were badly hurt in a car crash, which is a horrible tragedy. I also have to point out that, and Kevin Williamson wrote about this in National Review this week, that Biden openly and on the record has lied about that incident in the past, claiming that the truck driver who ran into the car that his wife and children were in had drunk his lunch. It was drunk driving. He has made that, which is a total lie. And the children of the now deceased truck driver have for years begged Biden to stop lying about their father. The police report said that Joe Biden's wife drove into the other lane. Now, obviously, it's an accident. It's a horrible mistake. But you don't have to get additional sympathy for yourself. You don't get to lie and malign another human being and think about the impact that has on his family and everything, to say that he committed a criminal act, and that's a horrible thing to say. Joe Biden's done that. That's Joe Biden's a liar. They're going to have a tough, we had that guy Jenk who was freaking out yesterday, and I played his clip for you, but I dealt with this on Bill Maher, where anything I tried to say about coronavirus is Trump's a liar, Trump's a liar. That's all they say. I said, well, can we talk about what he's doing, or can we talk about no, Trump's a liar. Anything else is BS. Trump, this is just, it's like a tick. They can't get past this. They're going to have an interesting time explaining, how is Joe Biden not a liar? Joe Biden's a liar. He lies on some big things. And he lies when he doesn't have to. He's very comfortable lying. So, and that's, you don't lie about stuff like that. You don't lie about somebody else being responsible for killing your wife and child in a car accident in a way that they would be negligent and criminally liable for. You don't get to destroy someone else's reputation for doing that. That's not okay. Biden got a lot of heat because in the 70s he opposed court-ordered busing. As I've told you, people don't think through the busing issue very much. They think it's a very, cut and dry. This is absolutely what needs to be done. There's no question. Okay, but a lot of people, a lot of young African Americans didn't want to be bused. They wanted to stay in their community with their friends, near their families. They don't get a say in this? Nope. Because, let's be honest, a bunch of white lib Democrats thought this was a great idea and didn't care what the people that it was supposed to help actually thought about it. And then, by the way, there are also young white students that were sent, way across town, hour each way in the bus. And as somebody who's spending like an hour and a half every day on the subway, let me tell you, I mean, the commutes wear you down. They wear you down. One of the great advantages of the modern world we live in now is increasingly the ability to work more remotely, to get more work done remotely, to be able to mold your schedule. You know, we've gotten away, and this is a departure from the Biden talk, but we've gotten away from the early industrial revolution concept of like show up, 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours in a place doing this thing all day. It's you're in place of machinery, and your productivity is just hours and labor. There's no, there's no creativity. There's no accelerating your process. We got to kind of cubicles and more 9 to 5 and, air conditioned rooms and all. Okay. But increasingly we want to just be, what is the job? What is productive? What do you need to do? And wherever you can do that is acceptable. I think that's a huge step in the right direction. And commuting really long distances, I'm hoping for most people will be a thing of the past increasingly over time. It already is changing. He is a, quote, self-described gaffe machine. This is what I was talking about with Biden being a liar. He falsely said he was shot at in Iraq. He falsely said he met the survivors of the 2018 Parkland, Florida shooting while he was vice president. That happened after he left office. He falsely claimed he was arrested while trying to visit Nelson Mandela in apartheid-era South Africa, and so on and so forth. Those are just the ones they list here. Those are lies. The guy's lying, right? I mean, he is lying about this stuff. And they're going to have to defend all this, I suppose. In 1987, he ran for president the first time. Do you remember what happened? Oh, yeah. Another little ethical lapse. He plagiarized speeches by Margaret Thatcher and British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock, falsely referring to ancestors of his who worked in the coal mines. He didn't have ancestors who worked in coal mines. He's a liar, folks. He just lies. Classic cynical politician. Let's see what else we have. He presided over the Clarence Thomas Supreme Court confirmation. Told you about that. He later apologized and said he didn't give her a fair hearing because he realized he was supposed to finish off Clarence Thomas. That was what he was supposed to do, but he didn't do it. And he voted against the use of force to drive Iraq out of Kuwait in 1991, which now is generally considered to have been a very successful intervention with very limited. Although people might extend the first Iraq War into the second Iraq War, that's a whole other conversation. He said that he called to his face Slobodan Milosevic a, quote, damned war criminal. Nope, no, he didn't. And he says that. You go through this, and there's a recurring theme here that he just lies a lot. He tells a lot of stories that are not true, and he's also going to have to defend his son getting $50,000 a month for Burisma and saying that that's fine. Perhaps he should just go around saying it was a perfect board position. Just take that approach. That's what the media's been doing for him.
They say the most important thing that a president does is the court system, and in particular Supreme Court judges. So I've named 218 new federal judges. Can you believe it? And that's a record. That's a record. Only one person beat me percentage-wise. You know who that is, right? Does anybody know? Percentage-wise, there's only one. And when you look, 218, because President Obama was very nice, he left 142 to start off with. Usually you'd left none. I had 142. But you know who the one percentage-wise was? George Washington. He had 100%. But it was like 12 people. 12. At least I can say I named more than him, a lot more.
Two things about this. One is that those of us on the right, anybody who felt like they were uncertain about Trump but recognized that if he has been the best when it comes to appointing judges, not just the number of judges, but the bona fides, the credibility of these judges as conservative constitutionalists, it exceeds anything that any other president has ever done. I mean, it's certainly in the modern era. So he's the best on judges, and people who thought that was a big reason to vote for him, even if they didn't like some of the tweets or the comments or whatever, that was the right move in that bargain. And then it's also why the libs, take us back to earlier in the show. It's why the libs are so panicked about the judiciary right now, because they know that they can't just rely on, there's the deep state at the FBI trying to help the Democrats here and there, the deep state at the DOJ. The ultimate deep state, in a sense, is the left-wing activist judiciary, and Trump is hollowing that out and replacing it with people who will actually be fair to the law and the Constitution, which is what we want. It's not like our side's like, yeah, give us everything else we want too. We just want that. They don't.